Chapter 7. The Incident. Rain held up her hand and motioned for Moira to stay upstairs. She took off her shoes, not wanting to make a sound as she sauntered down the stairs. When she reached the bottom, she walked through the kitchen and peeked down the hallway. Their mother, Mary Ann, was sitting on the bed folding clothes. The coast was clear. Moira watched from upstairs and waited impatiently for the signal from Rain. Rain ran toward the staircase and signaled for Moira to come down the steps. Moira took one foot and placed it on the step. She tried her darndest to be as discreet as possible and to make no sound, but the heels were making too much noise. Moira took off the shoes and held them against her chest. But as she descended down the stairs, one shoe fell out of her hand and made a loud, clanking sound as it tumbled down the stairs. A voluptuous woman with a caramel skin tone came walking into the living room. She stood about 5'8" and had her hair swooped into a ponytail that hung abundantly down her back. When Rain saw her mother coming toward her, she motioned for Moira to run back upstairs. But it was too late. Mary Ann had seen Moira provocatively dressed. She glanced at Moira and then looked at Rain and placed both of her hands on her hips.
"Where do you think you're going dressed like that?"
Mary Ann snapped.
"I'm just going to a Halloween party,"
Moira replied, with her eyes looking down at the ground.
"Will there be adult supervision?"
Mary Ann probed.
I don't know. It's just some kids from school,"
Moira replied.
"Oh, so it is a little boy that has you dressing provocative,"
Mary Ann responded. Rain stood between Moira and her mother and interrupted the conversation.
"Mom, she's 16 and it's just a little makeup and a wig. Everybody wears makeup and extensions. It is not every day I get to give my little sister a makeover," responded Rain.
Mary Ann turned her head toward Rain. Her brown eyes pierced into her like laser beams, but she did not say a word. She walked over to the kitchen counter and snatched a paper towel from the roller, ran it under some hot water, and grabbed Moira's chin and tried to remove the makeup off her face. Moira pushed her mother away from her and turned her face from left to right in an attempt to keep her from destroying her beautiful makeup. She tried to run away, but Mary Ann had a powerful grip on her face.
"Little girl, you think I'm going to let you get away with putting your hands on me?"
Mary Ann questioned.
"Stop, Mom! You're messing it up!"
Moira yelled. Mary Ann snatched the purse from Moira and threw it across the room. Moira's phone fell out along with a few other contents. She pulled the long wig off Moira's head and threw it to the ground. Anger grew in Moira, and her blood boiled beneath her veins. Her fingers balled into a fist. She stared at her mother straight in the eye and let out a loud and bellowing scream.
"I hate you!"
She stomped up the stairs and slammed the door. Rain walked toward her mother and looked her straight in the eye.
"Mom, it's just a little hair and makeup,"
Rain stated.
"I'm a single parent raising 2 teenage girls without the assistance of their father. I refuse to allow my daughters to dress like skanks. You know the rules. No makeup, wigs, or provocative clothing until 18.
Mary Ann barked. She picked up Moira's phone to put it back in the purse, and it rang. Mary Ann looked at the screen, and there was an incoming call from Chocolate Dimples. Rain tried to grab the phone from her mother, but was unsuccessful.
"Mom, don't answer her phone. That's an invasion of her privacy,"
Rain replied.
"I pay this phone bill, and there is no privacy in this house unless you are in the bathroom,"
Mary Ann replied. She pressed the accept button and put the phone to her ear.
"Hello? Who is Chocolate Dimples?"
Mary Ann replied.
"Chocolate Dimples? Is this Moira's phone?"
Edward asked.
"Yes, this is her mother. What's your name, young man? And don't tell me Chocolate Dimples is your rap name."
Rain puts her head in her hands, embarrassed for her sister.
"My name is Edward, and I don't listen to rap."
Edward chuckled.
"It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Manning. Can I speak to Moira?"
"Moira is unavailable and won't be attending your party,"
she replied.
"I'm sorry to hear that. Is she okay?"
"She's fine,"
Mary Ann replied.
"Could you tell her to call me when—"
Mary Ann hung up the phone, powered it off, and threw it on the kitchen counter.
"Mom, that was absolutely uncalled for,"
Rain yelled.
"No, what's uncalled for is my daughter telling me she hates me. He's bad news. You should have heard him on the phone being extra polite, as if I can't see through that facade.
Marianne headed upstairs to give Moira a piece of her mind, but Rain ran in front of her and blocked her from going upstairs.
Please, let me talk to her,
Rain pleaded. Marianne pondered Rain's suggestion, and after she thought about it, she agreed. Rain ran upstairs after her sister and lightly knocked against the bathroom door.
Go away,
Moira yelled.
It's me, Moira,
Rain replied.
I don't want to talk. I want to be alone,
Moira replied. Rain leaned against the door and waited a few minutes. She searched for words that would soothe her sister's anger.
Moira, I'm sorry Mom ruined your day. Maybe when we visit Dad, we can do another makeup session. When Mom is not around?
Suggested Rain. Rain waited for a response, but when she didn't receive one, she leaned her head against the door. The sound of Moira's whimpering in the bathroom caused her to hurt with her sister. She glanced at her watch. It was almost 6 p.m., and she was late for her Halloween party. A genius idea popped in her head. She ran down the steps and walked into the dining room. Her mom was having her afternoon tea and reading a hair magazine.
Mom, can Moira go with me to the party? I'd watch her,
Rain asked.
Absolutely not. She has an anger problem, and she needs to sit upstairs and think about what she said. I will not reward disobedience. I spent hours building up her self-esteem, and you tore it down in seconds,
Rain added.
My house, my rules. If you don't like it, get out,
Marianne commanded. Rain walked over to the closet and snatched her jacket from off the hanger. She picked up her shoes next to the stairs and slammed the door. Marianne rose from the table and walked to the front of the house to reprimand Rain, but it was too late. She was already in her car backing out of the driveway when she reached the door.
I'll deal with her when she returns,
Marianne whispered to herself. She walked to the dining room table and continued to sip on her tea while she perused various hair magazines. She was in search of a new style for her client. After a few moments of silence, a cloud of guilt descended upon her. She wondered if she handled the situation with Moira a little too harshly. She released a lengthy sigh and headed upstairs to apologize to her daughter. When she reached the top of the stairs, Moira was standing there with her arms folded across her chest.
You let Rain go to her party, but I can't go to mine?
Moira questioned.
Moira, I will deal with Rain when she returns. Put on your little Red Riding Hood costume and let's go trick-or-treating before it's too late,
Marianne instructed.
Mom, what 16-year-old trick-or-treats with their mother?
Moira replied. Marianne walked up the stairs, but Moira moved to the left and blocked her from going any further.
Moira, step aside and let me upstairs.
Moira stood on the stairs and ignored her mother. As Marianne moved to the right, Moira shifted her meager frame to the right to block her mother from her desired destination. Marianne grasped Moira by her wrist, but Moira had the upper hand, being on the top step, and was stronger than she thought. She snatched her wrist from her mother, and Marianne lost her balance. Her eyes widened, and her hands grasped the air for anything that would keep her from falling. She reached her hand out to Moira, but Moira took a step backwards onto the top stair to keep from falling with her mother. As a result, Marianne tumbled down the lengthy flight of marble stairs. Moira watched as her mother hit her head on one step after the other until she reached the bottom. She lay at the bottom of the stairs motionless. For a brief moment, Moira felt justice had been served and was happy her mother received what she deserved. But her tune quickly changed when blood dripped out of the right side of Marianne's forehead and onto the floor. Moira ran down the steps, got on her knees, and checked her mother's pulse. She was still breathing. She jumped up and dug through her mother's purse until she found her mother's phone. Moira dialed 911, but before she pressed the last one, her mother gripped her ankle. Moira screamed and shook her leg to wiggle herself loose, but Marianne had a firm grip and refused to release her. She yanked Moira's leg, and she fell to the ground.
What the hell is wrong with you? You let me fall down the stairs,
Marianne yelled. She lifted herself from off the ground and touched the side of her head. Her caramel fingers had spots of blood on them. She cut Moira an ugly glance and walked out of the living room. Moira knew that look, and it meant trouble. She searched for a hiding space, but it was too late. A few seconds later, Marianne returned with a belt in one hand and a towel covering her head in the other. Marianne pulled her arm back and whipped that belt forward.
Get over here, little girl,
Marianne demanded. Moira sprinted up the stairs, determined to not get a whipping from her mother. Marianne swung the belt at Moira but missed her by a fraction of an inch. Moira ran into the bathroom, slammed the door, and locked it. Marianne ran to the upstairs bathroom door and repeatedly banged on the door.
Open up the damn door, Moira,
Marianne yelled.
Leave me alone or I will call Child Protective Services.
Marianne paused and leaned against the door.
Not without your cell phone.
Moira remembered that the contents of her purse had fallen out earlier. She kicked the cabinet sink, annoyed. Marianne knocked on the door with her fist.
You have to come out eventually, Missy, and when you do, me and my belt will be waiting.
Marianne waited a few seconds for Moira to open the door, but a knock at the front door caught her attention. She looked in the hall mirror, wiped a few drops of blood from her face, and headed downstairs.